Now I'm delighted to be joined by Petra Hielkema, the Chairperson of the European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, or EIOPA. She's also a General Board member and Steering Committee member of the European Systemic Risk Board and an Executive Committee voting member of the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. She's also currently chairing the Joint Committee of the three European Supervisory Authorities, the EIOPA, the European Banking Authority, and the European Securities and Markets Authority. So thank you, Petra, for bringing such a wealth of experience to RAID today. Firstly, should we take a view on the macro environment? The current framework for regulating insurance in Europe is called Solvency II, and this arose from the global financial crisis. What external pressures are shaping insurance regulation today, do you think, and how might EU regulations evolve as a result?
Yeah, thank you, Ben, and thank you for having me for this conference. I was really happy to receive the invitation. Good question to start with. I think currently the macroeconomic environment is and the financial outlook is top of mind on many tables, also ours. Outlook is grim. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of nervousness in the market, a lot of uncertainty. So we need to monitor very closely the impact of the unprovoked war of Russia on Ukraine is directly, maybe not so large on the insurance and pensions industry that I'm monitoring. But of course, the indirect impact with the inflation going up, energy prices going up, etc., is serious. So what is that having as an impact on our regulations? Well, let's start with the review of Solvency II. I think Solvency II itself now, over 5 years in force, I think is doing actually quite well during crisis. I think we really benefit from the fact that we have a framework that has market valuation, that has a good risk management. So that helped the industry to go through first the pandemic and now be in this crisis. At the same time, with the review, we say we need to keep it fit for purpose, and we need to continue to ensure that we do take on board the macroeconomic environment. What else is shaping regulation is for sure the topic of sustainability. The understanding now that sustainability and becoming green is definitely a transition. Green finance is not about being green, it's about becoming green. It's a transition. But if we don't go through that transition, it is an actual concrete, serious risk on the books of the financial industry. So from a risk management perspective, this is something to deal with. So that is very much influencing now a lot of regulation. And finally, of course, digitalization is. And here I think that the technological neutral and often horizontal approach. So one approach for a technology that then holds for many different sectors, I think is the way that the Commission is dealing with that, is a new way also for us as sectoral supervisors, but I think it's logic. And I think all this is happening in a time that, again, we need to closely monitor what is happening in the market.
Yeah, I mean, digitalization is transforming all sectors, and insurance has always been based, perhaps more so than any others, has been based on statistical analysis, but the level of insights and understanding of data has increased massively through digitalization in recent years. So how are insurers and regulators benefiting from this increased availability of data and computing power, and what do insurers need to do to keep up to speed with digital transformation?
Yeah, so I think first of all, data has always been at the core of insurance business, and so some of the things and data analytics, already AI being in use in the insurance sector is not so much promoted as being very innovative, because it's more or less what they have been doing for many years. So I think first of all, having good data, having data quality, but being able to process a lot more data than you have in the past, I think is a very important step and development that is now happening in our industry. And I think of all the digital innovation that is happening, I think this is the key part of for the insurance sector. Now, harnessing all these benefits from digitalization is good, but at the same time, we need to manage the risk. And so what we say as EIOPA is three things that insurers have to do. One is you need to update the risk management framework you need to review the extent to which you're in control of testing and of feedback loop criteria, and that you also take them on board in your processes to ensure that what you do remains relevant and valid in a digital age. including when it comes to new technologies. And so, for example, the opacity of some AI algorithms bring many opportunities, but also new challenges. And the insurance undertakings need to adopt their governance and control frameworks to deal with that. The second is just make sure you upgrade your IT landscape, your hardware, your software, make sure you upgrade it. Don't deal with old spaghetti, but really ensure that also your infrastructure is ready for that new age, and it is resilient. So cyber resilience, very much also part of the attention of regulators and supervisors. And finally, you need a cultural shift, like many companies do, like supervisors do, but you need people that understand, accept, and are able to deal with this new domain of knowledge and data science skills. And that requires constant attention to get there.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on this a moment ago. Digitalization brings great benefits, but also huge challenges, particularly when it comes to privacy and consumer trust. Algorithms might know more about us than we do ourselves, for example, which is a slightly scary prospect. So what ethical issues does this pose, and what role do regulators play?
Naturally, there's a lot of ethical questions, and depending on the line of business you're in, they become tougher. So, for example, there's big discussions about health data and the extent to which you can use it if you provide health cover as an insurer. The fact is that these data are there, or could be there, would be available, could be analyzed, and that brings a lot of possibilities, but you have to understand the sensitivity, also of the use of telematics, of the Internet of Things data, of more pronounced life and health data. So in the non-life insurance business lines, here, I think, but also in the life insurance lines, I think here there is always the need to find the right balance between the moral compass, because I think many companies, including insurers, have a moral compass on what is right and what is not right to do. And on the other hand, of course, the competition and the need to have a business model and to generate a return. Now, here the regulator can indeed contribute to solve some of the dilemmas by working on a framework in a digital age. And the first thing we've done recently is that we've with industry, by the way, together we've set up some principles of the ethical use of AI, and you can find it on our website. I think it's a very good document that was again developed with industry and supervisors, and can be a good start. What we also did was we published a supervisory statement, which is stronger, which is a statement where we say what we expect to happen in the market, where we said that the use of differential pricing practices would be a concern in those cases where the difference in price is not motivated by risks, but for example, by the tendency of a client to leave if prices go up. And I think here, these are two examples of what concretely you could do, either jointly or through a supervisor, through expectations going forward, to ensure that that moral compass always has a little bit more weight than other interests that might be there.
And on the subject of data sharing, there's a move towards open insurance, and again, this brings both benefits and risks. So, what legislative steps should be applied here, do you think, and what are the implications for regulators and consumers as well, who might be sensing a loss of control over their data?
Yeah, so I think from a regulatory and supervisory perspective, to be very frank, I think there's still many questions on how open insurance, how it would look like. And what would be the business proposition? Yet, I think it's very good to investigate that. So EIOPA will be working on a concrete use case in order to better understand what it could bring, and also then what could be the risks and the benefits. Looking already at PSD2, and I happen to be working in payments for a while, so I can make the comparison. I think what is key about the control of the feel of control of consumers, of course, is the consent, and it is a conscious consent, I would always say, for the use of data. But it's also about having a consumer-centric approach, so that consumers can feel that they do not lose control over access over their data, that they may choose to participate or opt out, and that they actually are getting then a product or a service that really benefits them. And so when developing the products or the ideas of what could come from open insurance, a consumer-centric perspective, I think, will be key to ensure that consumers not only feel in control, but also are interested in buying the products.
Thank you for that, Petra. And you mentioned AI earlier on. Perhaps we could take a closer look at this, really, and what impact AI is having on the insurance and pensions market, and what role are you playing in ensuring that AI systems are trustworthy, your own initiatives, and also your view on the AI Act, for example, and other initiatives in this space.
As I said, AI already, I think, plays a pivotal role in the transformation of insurance undertakings, and several have adopted in recent years some ambitious digital transformation strategies and roadmaps, and you will always find AI at the center of those documents. We did a thematic review on the use of big data analytics in motor and health insurance, and already in 2019, so before the digital wave caused by Corona. And then already 31% was using AI, and 24 in the phase of proof of concept. So I think by now that is much harder, and it shows how much it's there. The risk when it comes to the opacity of the so-called black box AIs, we need to deal with that. We discussed that, fairness, non-discrimination. It's all out there in the principles that we published. So I think that needs to be taken on board. But what you also see is that with these principles that we jointly developed, you now see regulation develop. This is the first area where you see concrete regulation coming into being for good reasons. What I feel here that is important is that it is a horizontal act, which means it's one act like the GDPR that then holds for the entire market, including for the financial part. However, the financial part already is a highly regulated part. So what for us is important when we look at the AI Act as an insurance supervisor is three things. One, the definition of AI isn't it too broad? Currently, there's a lot in the definition that we would say is something that insurers have been doing already for a long time, and I wonder if it deserves the label of AI. Second, if you include AI for insurers or insurers as users of AI as a high risk category, I think you need to really have good insurance use cases, because I do not think that is always the case at this stage. I think, and if use cases can show that, so even if it's horizontal, do make use of the use cases of concrete insurance activities. And finally, recognize that that part of our economy is already supervised, and ensure that there is a good arrangement of the role of the regulators, supervisors in that field. So myself and my colleagues in the banking and securities authorities, and the AI board that is also going to supervise to avoid that there is overlap or confusion.
Yeah, well, that leads nicely to the sort of the final question I wanted to ask you. Really, I mentioned earlier on that you're on the joint committee of the European supervisory authorities, and so it'd be interesting to get your view really on what regulators need to do to share ideas more broadly, and what can be done to sort of work together to create a stronger sort of regulatory framework to help bring financial stability and resilience, and for example through the Digital Operational Resilience Act and other initiatives.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because I think it sometimes shows that there's a lot happening that is not immediately visible. There is a lot of cooperation already happening between my sister authorities, the banking, EBA, and the securities, ESMA, and ourselves. We rotate the chairmanship, so this year it's me, next year it will be the banking authority. And we have many meetings, official meetings, but also informal, where if we go to events where we are all we discuss a lot, and particularly on topics like greening the financial system, innovation, stress testing, but also the Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. We work together a lot by the request of the Commission often. So in the case of DORA, actually they expect us to work together, but also on topics where maybe the expectation is not literally there, we will try to bundle our efforts. And so on DORA, very concretely, we will have a joint subcommittee working through all the the drafting that needs to be done for DORA. That's one. But we also, together with the DJ Reform, Digital Director General Reform from the Commission, we have founded a digital academy. And in that academy, we will start training supervisors from all our authorities on digital. And for the insurance group, we will focus first on AI.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Petra, for joining us today, for sharing your specific views on insurance and pensions, and also the more general views about how we can bundle our efforts, as you say, as regulatory and legislative stakeholders in the regulation of AI, internet and data at RAID today. So thank you so much for your help, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Thank you very much for having me, and I wish you a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.